I'm going to share with you how I frosted this domed dino cake. I learned this technique from Elegant Sweets. You should definitely go follow their channel. When building up a cake like this, you want to use a buttercream that is smooth and silky but still sturdy. I'm using a Swiss meringue buttercream, and you can see when I pipe the border for my jam that it holds its shape really well, and you can just tell it's going to support the upper cake layers. I also use a thickened jam that is caramelized a little bit, so it also holds its shape and is less prone to squish out the sides. I also like doing concentric circles because it gives a little boost in support with frosting in the middle part of the cake. I also like to pause between layers to smooth out extra frosting to crumb coat. It just helps you see the outline of the cake and center your additional layers. It's really important to be working with perfectly level sponge layers. This just takes a lot of guesswork out of trying to make sure each layer is flat and not tilting any which way. I have a total of 3 flat layers, and the 4th and 5th layers still have the cake dome on top, which is going to help me build up the dinosaur's head shape. Now I'm just slathering frosting around the sides so I can have a good crumb coat, seal in the moisture. You really do not need to be precise here because you're going to wrap this cake and chill it next. Okay, and there's my little topper. So he looks kind of lopsided, but that's okay. This is one of the most important parts to me. You gotta wrap up this cake. I put cling wrap on the top, and then I use a thicker acetate around the sides. I use the cake ring that I bake them in, and you constrain it, chill it. This is just gonna line everything up and make it a great foundation for smoothing. Next up, I have shaped some cake pop dough into little nubbins for the arms, feet, and tail. I'm using my final frosting color to get a rough coat on all of them. Then I use this flexible piece of plastic that's still pretty rigid. And this is how you get a contoured smooth. It takes some practice, but if you hold it just right and you drag it along the surface, you get some really nice smoothing effects. After this, you'll want to store them in the fridge until you're ready to use them. Now that the cake is super cold, you can start frosting it. I'm just globbing it on. One thing to make sure is that your final frosting does not have too many bubbles in it. This will just make your life easier. So before you put it on the cake, do a few stirs with your spatula to just smooth it out. I'm using a large cake scraper to get the sides nice and straight. With cake scrapers, you want to make sure that the hand holding the scraper is not moving. Then with the flexible plastic scraper, I am working on the curved portion of the head. This is going to take several turns to get it perfectly smooth. You just alternate between scraping away and adding more frosting to fill the holes. You can see the real-time speed at which I'm rotating the cake stand. Just remember that every time you touch the frosting, it's going to leave a mark. So the slower you can make your scrapes, the better. I actually made this scraper by cutting out a piece of a notebook divider. As you get closer to your final scrapes, you want to clean the scraper each time. This is because any frosting left on the scraper is going to result in a new indentation on your cake. You can change the shape of the scraper using your fingers. Now I'm using those cake pop legs and feet and tail, and I'm using toothpicks to attach them to the cake. This gets pretty messy, so I recommend wearing gloves. It was a little nerve-wracking trying to pick the perfect spot to stick them in, but you just gotta go with your gut. Once everything is in, you can pick up your flexible scraper and fill in holes and smooth everything out the best you can. Try your best not to disturb the base frosting, but it's pretty hard. You'll just have to do touch-ups after the fact. So this is one of my smaller size flexible scrapers. Again, I cut these out myself. You can cut any size you need. And it's working really well to get his arms and legs nice and bubbly looking. Another point I forgot to mention is you want to build this cake on a very sturdy cake drum, because when you pick it up, you don't want it to flex and disrupt your hard work of frosting. I even have some foam pad spacers taped to the bottom so that it's easier to pick up. If it feels like you're scraping and removing too much frosting, you can stick the cake in the fridge for 20 minutes so that the layer of frosting will harden up and you can add more on top. I prepared some modeling chocolate facial features, a mouth, 2 eyes, and some blush cheeks. Unfortunately, my camera battery died during this portion, but I think you get the idea. My buttercream was soft enough to where I could just stick it right in. The remaining steps are to add spikes, which is some frosting that I colored a darker shade, and then a little party hat made of modeling chocolate. I also gave him a little cupcake for the kiddo to blow the candles out from. I love the way he turned out, and the cake was so delicious.